Today we will be looking at the coordinate plane in Chapter 2, Section 6. So let's take a look at our first problem here. So it talks about the coordinate plane is formed by two axes that form a right angle. So a right angle makes 90 degrees. So for instance, this right here is a right angle. And so this is 90 degrees. And so what they do, since it's 90 degrees and a full circle is 360 degrees, if you cut that in 4 pieces, you each get 90 degrees. And that's what we have here. Our quadrants. Quadrants means 4. And so we have 4 different regions. And they go this way. This is quadrant number 1 because it's the most common one used. It's positive numbers. So notice the x values are positive, the y values are positive. And then it goes in a counterclockwise rotation. So what you can always remember is going from quadrant 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 is it makes a C. So notice that when I make a C, I start in the upper right hand corner and then I work my way around to quadrant number 2 and to quadrant number 3, and then when I complete my C, I get to quadrant number 4. So when you think of quadrants in the numbers, think of the letter C. So it starts up in the upper right, that's quadrant 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. Well, the center of where the y and x axes merge together is called the origin. That's the beginning. That's what origin means, is the beginning. So it's the beginning point of what this ends up making. And from there we have different, again, the quadrants are here, and then if points are on the axes, they're not in a quadrant, they're on an axis. So, for instance, it says points are located on the coordinate plane. Those are called ordered pairs, and here's 3-4, 3, comma 4. And so what that means is the first number in the ordered pair tells how far to move to the right or to the left on the x-axis. So, for instance, 3, 4, I go over 3 spaces on the x-axis to the right because it's a positive 3. So 3, comma 4 would be 3 spaces to the right, but then the y component is the second component. So the second component tells how far to move up or down on the y-axis. So 3, comma 4 would be over 3 and then up 4 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4. So notice that I always start at the origin. Again, that's why it's called that. It's the beginning point of each of these points. It's where we start. So 3 spaces to the right, 4 spaces up. Now if it were negative 3, let's say positive 4, then I would go over 3 to the left because it's negative, and then still 4 spaces up. So it would go right there. If it were negative 2, comma negative 2, that would mean I would go 2 spaces to the left, 2 spaces down. And if it were, let's say, a negative, actually let's go with a positive. Positive 3, negative 2, that would be 3 spaces to the right, 2 spaces down. That would be in the 4th quadrant. So here's some questions real quick to go over from what we just were talking about. What is the horizontal number line of the coordinate plane? Well, horizontal runs left and right. It runs in this direction, left and right. Well, left and right, that's the x-axis. And so that's the axis that we're running on when we're going horizontally, left and right. It's the first component of the ordered pair. What does an ordered pair tell you? Well, an ordered pair tells us we're going to go in the x direction. That means left or right. That's the first component. And then the second component tells us what to do in the y direction. That means up or down. So remember, if this is a positive number, it's going to go up. Negative, it's going to go down. If it's a positive number, we're going to go right for the x component. Left means negative. Well, what is the vertical number line in the coordinate plane called? Well, the vertical line goes straight up and down. That's the y-axis. It's the second component of the ordered pair. What are the two numbers in an ordered pair called? Well, we have the x and the y value. So x component is the first component. So we'll say the first component, and then we have the second component is the y component. Well, let's try answering one more question here. What do the number lines or where do the number lines intersect? Well, that's the beginning point. And what is the beginning point called? It's called the origin. It's the beginning of each ordered pair. It's always where we start. So this information is going to help us solve some problems that we'll see on tonight's homework. So let's take a look at those. So here are some similar problems. First of all, we're going to name the quadrant where each point is located. So if you're not sure, remember the letter C. So it goes the first quadrant, then the second quadrant, and the third quadrant, and then the fourth quadrant. So that's how it goes. Remember the letter C. So D. So we look for D, and notice it is in quadrant number 2. So you just write number 2. Or if you write down 2 this way, that's fine as well. And then Y, well, we look for Y, and that is in quadrant number 3. Or if you write 3, that's fine as well. C, that's quadrant number 1. So I'm going to stick with the Roman numerals here. And how about P? Well, P is in quadrant number 2. It's right here. B, well, B is in 4. If you remember the C, 4 is last, so it's in the lower right. And X, it's in quadrant number 1. Well, sometimes points don't line up on quadrants, so I'm going to give you one example that's not here, but let's say this point right here, and I'll call this point W. W is not in a quadrant. W is actually on an axis. And so we'd say W is on the positive. Positive because it's to the right, positive x-axis is what we would say. So if it's not on or in a quadrant, but it's on an axis, then we have to specify whether positive or negative axis, positive, negative axis, and then which axis it is. So the next one gives us, we're supposed to give the coordinates, so the ordered pair, so x. So x is 2 spaces to the right, 1 space up. So 2 to the right, so 2, and then 1 space up would just be positive 1. P is right here. 1 space to the left, so negative 1, and then 1, 2, 3 spaces up. Remember, you're counting the spaces. Don't count this as a space. It's 1, 2, 3 spaces up. Y, well, that's 2 spaces to the left, 2 down. So that's negative 2, comma, negative 2. So notice I went 2 to the left, 2 down. A is over here, so 1, 2, 3 spaces to the right, so it's a 3, and then it is down 1, 2, so negative 2. Got the parenthesis in the wrong spot there. So 3, negative 2. Q's over here, it's 4 spaces to the left, so negative 4, but 1 space up, so positive 1. D is right here, negative 2, and then 2 spaces up. Well, let's take a look at the last set of directions. It asks us to graph each point on the coordinate plane at right. And so here we have 3, 1, and the point is x. So over 3, and then up 1, put the dot right there where those lines intersect, and then just write an x. And moving on to the next one, 1, negative 2. So over 1, but then down 2. So the first component tells me to go left or right. Second component tells me to go up or down. And so remember, you'll always remember it because it's a positive y-axis here, positive x-axis over on the right, positive y on the up direction, negative x to the left, negative y when you're going down. Let's take a look at our next one here. We're on P, so 2, 0. So over 2, up 0 brings us right on the x-axis, positive x-axis there, so that's P. T is negative 2, negative 2, so down 2, or over 2 to the left, down 2. That is T. And then U is 0, negative 3, so over 0 and there's down 3, and this is on the negative y-axis. Negative y-axis for U. And then A, negative 4, negative 1. So there it is. So these are the types of problems you're going to be dealing with. Well, coordinate planes, you're going to look at graphing points, naming points, and naming quadrants. Well, good luck on tonight's homework.